Breaking tonight, terrorism now front and center in the race for the White House, with the new Fox News poll finding it is now the top issue for voters. 24% worry about terror the most. That's up 13 points from August. The economy used to be number one. The threat from radical Islamic extremists has also become a key issue on the campaign trail, with each of the contenders suggesting they have the best plan to keep America safe. Watch.
I would get everybody together and I'd blast the hell out of them. They wouldn't be there long, believe me. I would blast the hell out of them.
I'm the only person in this race who has actually done this before. I was United States Attorney for 7 years in New Jersey in the immediate aftermath of September 11th.
We're going to get attacked here. If we don't put ISIL on the run, they're large, they're rich, they're entrenched. If I were president, they would be small, poor, and on the run.
He still wants to bring to America tens of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees, even after his own FBI director admitted this administration cannot vet the refugees to ensure they're not ISIS terrorists. That doesn't make any sense.
This conflict with ISIS is a civilizational conflict between these radical lunatics and the rest of the world. And the president and Hillary Clinton last week liked to go around saying, well, we're not at war with Muslims. No one is saying that. In fact, ISIS hates Muslims, too.
Chris Stirewalt, our Fox News digital politics editor, and Howard Kurtz, host of Fox News' Media Buzz. Chris, I'll start with you first. Who is winning the message right now? Top issue for the American voter is terrorism and fighting it. Who's winning?
I think the last couple of guys you heard right there, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, were already well positioned on this issue in what they've dealt with and what they've focused on. I think the terminology matters a great deal. Yeah, the portfolio matters, the time in the Senate, how they've been front and center on these issues. But you heard Rubio talk about a civilizational struggle, that this is a existential struggle for the West against Islamist militancy, and this either is or isn't. And I think talking about it in that way helps voters understand that he's serious about it and means to come hard.
Well, those GOP contenders running against Rubio, Howard, have said he's too young to possibly understand how to fight terrorism for this country. Who do you think is losing as far as putting out their message on how to fight ISIS, fight global terrorism? Donald Trump, we just heard him, said he's going to blast the hell out of them.
Well, I think Trump's the big winner here, not because of any great foreign policy acumen or claims that he can peer into the future. If he could do that, he probably wouldn't have built those casinos in Atlantic City. When he talks about bombing the S out of ISIS and spying on mosques and seizing the oil, he projects an aura of strength that voters respond to because they don't drill down to the specifics. Marco Rubio may be young, but he's very fluent in foreign policies on the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate. Ted Cruz, I think, also has scored some points with his strong stand against Syrian refugees. But Chris Christie, who you showed, back in the pack, absolutely, former federal prosecutor, I think in his case, he's starting to talk more about 9/11 in more personal terms. He didn't know for several hours whether his wife was alive. I think that, at least in these New Hampshire town halls, is resonating.
And then, Chris, Ted Cruz taking a different approach, not going after his opponents. He's going after President Obama and his refugee strategy to bring refugees into the United States. Is this a good tactic?
No, I think it has been a good tactic. It has distracted perhaps somewhat from the ability to pin the president down on his strategy for beating ISIS. But the big deal here is whoever the Republicans choose, whether it be Cruz or Rubio or whomever they choose, they'll be facing Hillary Clinton.
That's right.
And if they want to beat Hillary Clinton, they will have to also tie her relentlessly to the president's foreign policy, which is direly unpopular, especially on this issue. And they will have to say, if you vote for her, you'll get this again.
Well, but those who support Hillary Clinton are also, you might argue that they're winning the message that she's the most experienced on foreign policy, obviously as the former Secretary of State, and she's taken on a very hawkish tone. Howard, is this working for her? I mean, there is recent polling, this Washington Post ABC poll shows that she is winning the message even more so than any other GOP candidate.
And it's especially working for Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders is so uncomfortable talking about foreign policy, he doesn't even mention it in some of his speeches and appearances. Now, Hillary's record is a mixed bag, and when you get a little deeper, you have to talk about what she did on Libya and some of these other things. But she is more hawkish than the president, and she tried to separate herself a bit with that speech calling for a no-fly zone in Syria, for example. Just to circle back to the Republican side for a moment, clearly, no secret, the candidate who's losing altitude, especially as we focus more on terror and foreign policy, is Ben Carson, who's had some stumbles in that area and doesn't seem to have a strong message, doesn't project that way the way Trump and Cruz and Rubio do.
And by the way, Chris, we had set up quite the debate here talking about all these candidates tonight. And while Howard Kurtz says that he thinks that Donald Trump is winning the message on terrorism, you actually picked him as your loser.
Well, look, I think he has spent far too much time trying to back up these exorbitant claims he's made about September 11th and the Muslims he says he saw celebrating dancing in the streets, or what he saw on September 11th. It's been too much about him. Now, when I agree with Howard, when he talks about bombing the feces out of ISIS, I think it resonates with his core supporters. Yeah, sure. But when he spends all this time talking about him and what I saw and a Muslim this and a Muslim that, that doesn't help him broaden his base. That's no good.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us tonight.